Make a hot cuppa and relax. It's Afternoon Karak with Aisha Al-Mazmi and Mikhail Attia.
On Pulse 95.
It is just a case of the Mondays because, as the wonderful Wanda says, sometimes you're dragging yourself during the week and you're like, it's okay, I'm gonna be fine. And I know it's the second day of the week, but still, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna do wonderful. You guys are doing amazing. Just in the words of the great Kris Jenner, you're doing amazing, sweetie.
And guys, be sure to tune in for today because we've been waiting for a very long time. This is a movie that we have been so excited to review. The Zack Snyder Justice League. Now, this is a film for a long time has been somewhat of a unicorn. There's conspiracy theorists behind this film who are thinking, yeah, this Zack Snyder version of the film does exist. And after so many fans' demands, this movie has finally come out on HBO Max, and I would say it's a really beefy film. It took a while for me, I will admit, it took a while for me to sit down and watch it. I had to take a bit of a break.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't think I needed that, but you're absolutely right, Aisha.
So you want to, Aisha's what?
Aisha's right.
Always right. But funny enough, I watched both Justice Leagues back-to-back 6 hours without moving.
Oh my God. Okay, that's dedication.
I actually just got up either to go to the bathroom or because it was around like 1 a.m. and I got hungry, so I went to get me food and come back, and that is it. After you sat down, did not move. As I moved around my room.
So you have a really fresh memory of the original theatrical release as well as the extended cut.
Yes, I felt that it was necessary, and I'm glad I did that. I watched them back-to-back because I have a lot to say, and I feel like I understand why what a lot of people believe that the Zack Snyder version of Justice League is better storytelling in comparison to Joss Whedon's version of Justice League. But we're gonna get into it later on. We're gonna come back very soon after a very short break to talk about the Zack Snyder Justice League cut. Now, here's the thing. I think we should go full spoilers because it's necessary.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, because there's a lot to talk about, and sometimes you get excited and you just want to bring up that thing that does have a bit of spoilers. And at this point, if you haven't watched the original Justice League as well as this one, I don't know what to tell you. We kind of gave you guys a few days before we get into this review.
Yeah.
But don't worry, if you have to skip on it, then don't worry, we're going to have it later up on our YouTube as well as our podcast.
Yes.
Guys, join in the conversation. Text us 4215. It's Salantro Do. Have you watched the movie? What is your personal thoughts? Is it better than the original? Who knows? Right here on the Afternoon Cut.
Is it an epic or epic failure? The Big Review. Movies, games, and TV in focus.
Pulse 95.
Just like we warned you earlier, we're going to be doing a review of Zack Snyder's version of the Justice League that just came out over the weekend. There's going to be spoilers ahead, so if you haven't watched, actually if you watched the first version, the one from 2017, you're kind of good to go. The changes are minor from that point of view in terms of events. The only differences would be, I know I'm jumping right into it, but this
there's a few twists and turns, yeah.
Exactly, and just the changes would be I'd say the sequence and some things that were extended, but in terms of the story, it's basically more or less the same. So warning, spoilers ahead. Now let's kick off. As somebody who watched both of them back to back, I'll tell you that at least 95% of the dialogue is different.
Oh yeah.
90 to 95%. I can safely say this. So many things within that aspect has been changed. I find it much more enriching, and the reason why I believe that a lot of people did not realize the reason why the Zack Snyder version is better is because of the time that Justice League came out. I recall back in 2017, or I'd say around maybe 2016, 2015, when Justice League was first announced, I remember thinking this is way too early for a Justice League team up to happen with DCEU. I know this might be tiring to hear from me. I might be giving some comparisons to the MCU only because around that time, this was their vision, was to compete directly with the MCU, and the fact that Joss Whedon had just jumped from the MCU and doing several MCU projects to DCU, to Warner Brothers, and you can see the way that he was trying to kind of bring that over here. And it was not going to work because the previous movies that set up Justice League were not the same movies that set up the Avengers. The Avengers had, like previously, there were some specific, I'd say, notions, the way they spoke, the dialogue, the way the movies were made, helped set the tone for the Avengers. One, from the way it was written in terms of the dialogues and the way they talk to each other. Meanwhile, when it comes to Justice League, I don't feel they had enough time to basically flesh out all these characters enough for us to have a proper Justice League movie. So that when we had a 2-hour movie, that was not enough to talk about the Flash, to talk about Cyborg, or even to properly delve into the grief that that Bruce Wayne had coming from the 2 previous movies that he had just, been involved in.
Exactly. It was a film that introduced 3 superheroes, Aquaman, Cyborg, and Flash, and then tried to resurrect Superman all in one film. And you can tell when you try to rush a storyline like this, you're gonna come out of it with a lot of problems.
Exactly.
And that was a frustration with the original theatrical film. But with Zack Snyder's cut being 4 hours long, what I really like about it is that it takes its time flushing out every character. Who once I thought I hated Cyborg and Flash, I love them now in this movie.
Oh yeah, definitely. Here's the thing: I love Flash even in the first Justice League movie. But I think that he was fine as one of the 3 characters that were introduced. He was the only one who had a chance, like a breather, to explain things, even like just minuscule stuff. And especially since we know that we're getting a Flash movie that'll eventually flesh out his story. And same with Aquaman. However, Cyborg was the one who got the worst treatment in the initial Justice League movie, mostly because he just seemed incredibly angsty, and there were parts that made no sense that were cut off. First of all, Aquaman, the part where he actually meets Valko, that was very, very important and integral because that is when he gets his mother's trident. We miss out on that in the first movie, and I was incredibly confused because obviously I watched Aquaman, and I know that he has a trident, and I know he already gets it in the sequence of what happens later. But what about how he first got it? Why was he in Iceland? All of that was very, very just fuzzy, especially, again, somebody whose first DCEU movie was Aquaman. I require this explanation. And anybody who wants to jump into this movie, because yes, we know that the DCEU and the MCU are often for big loyal fans, but what we also know that almost always they would explain everything to you, even as a newcomer. And that is where Joss Whedon's Justice League failed incredibly, because as a newcomer, I was like, what is going on? What is happening?
Mother boxes.
What mother boxes? Why? Wait, I thought it was instant, but no, there's a 2-year gap. Why didn't you mention that in the beginning? It was incredibly confusing. And I also have to say, they gave justice to the Amazon fight because it actually showed them that they're actually very vicious and ready to fight. Meanwhile, in the Joss Whedon cut, it appeared as if they were set up for failure from the beginning. We know they're gonna fail; it's a given. But they didn't.
It showed like they didn't really put up a fight.
Exactly, they were weak. Just the whole when the Queen was screaming like, "Amazons, let's show them our fear," and they scream, "We have no fear." That in itself was beautiful. The fact that small things were removed actually made a massive, massive difference in my understanding, and I'm pretty sure even loyal fans' understanding of the movie.
The fact that there's a balanced amount of screen time for every superhero gives each of them a lot more depth compared to the original theatrical release. These are things that we love about this Zack Snyder cut, and we want you guys to share also your love here on the show. We're going to continue our review, some of the good, the bad, and possibly the ugly of Zack Snyder's Justice League, so stay tuned.
Pulse 95.
We are continuing our extensive review for Zack Snyder's cut of the Justice League. We've been waiting a long time to talk about this film, and we want you guys to also share your personal critique of the movie. Text us 4215 into Salat or Do, or even join our live stream on Pulse 95 Radio. I actually got a comment from a good friend. He says, this movie is the movie we needed, but we didn't deserve. And now that we got it, I hope we know better.
Absolutely, I agree with that fully. I feel like it would have, especially seeing, again, spoiler alert, again, seeing the different dream sequences. We know that Zack Snyder was basically setting up so many movies with this movie, and that just tells you that This was a massive missed opportunity from Warner Brothers. Actually, Warner Brothers have spoken to him about this cut of the movie when they were planning on releasing it. And they warned him. They're like, why are you doing this to the ending? Because obviously, if you remember, the ending had a dream sequence and an introduction of several characters that you did not really see throughout the movie. And basically, they were like, why would you do this? You're giving people hope. And what Zack Snyder said is that regardless of whether there is a continuation or not, this is just a genre. The genre that is superhero movies is all about anticipation, and that's how the movie should end. Within that note, you cannot just give them a happy ending the way Joss Whedon did, because that feeling where Superman just came out felt incredibly OP, overpowered, incredibly overpowered, that it felt like, what was the point of the entire movie if we can just bring in Superman, bring him from the dead, and he can just do everything? Whereas I feel the Zack Snyder cut sets up everybody, especially the two new characters that are the Flash and Cyborg.
Everybody's pulling their weight in this film.
Exactly, but those two in particular, I had massive respect for the Flash. He was just beautiful. I loved him in every single way. Like
his finale scene, ooh,
gorgeous. It was gorgeous. The thing he was doing, even though we kind of knew that there was going to be some sort of time manipulation.
Yeah,
but that was just beautiful. Honestly,
I love that he was just like, I gotta go faster than light, faster beyond. I'm like, ooh, and the music, and it's just he became my favorite character in that moment.
Absolutely, yeah. Just the entire movie, his dialogue, I'm glad that what Zack Snyder did was like he kept the comedic elements to the characters that actually make sense for them to be comedic. Yes, we saw the human side of Bruce, where he is a bit more calmer. I mean, yes, he's been doing it for 20 years. He's exhausted. He's tired. That's the reason why we had the entirety of Batman versus Superman in the first place, because he was trying to maintain peace, and he believed that, Superman is here. He's going to ruin everything now. This is just shows his fatigue and the way that he's been carrying this entire thing on his shoulders. I just loved it, honestly.
I also love the fact that they really did a great job flushing out the villain. With the original film, I didn't know who Steppenwolf was. What's really his motivation? He was just a cartoonish villain. This time around, there is a little backstory behind him. You understand the stakes he has for trying to redeem himself to the even greater evil that's in the DC universe, and the hint of Darkseid, the other looming danger that's possibly going to come out in future DC films. I really like how they set up Darkseid in this time around. Like where in the original, you see nothing of him. He's just like a mystical thing. This time they gave you a little bit of background behind the ancient wards, and they even brought something called the anti-life equation. When me and my friend who have watched the DC, like all the older like Justice League cartoon shows, when they said that, we just like gasped. We're like, oh my God, they're actually bringing this in. It's like think of it as the Infinity Stones of Marvel. This is how big this was, and this is feeling that we're missing, as fans, that we didn't get from the original. We got so much in the Zack Snyder cut.
Yes, and the fact that unless somehow people in Warner Brothers take off with everything that Zack Snyder has set up, they could easily have a beautiful DCEU if they just make this canon.
Yeah,
that's all they need to do.
It is certainly a triumphant return, but it also leaves a uncertain fate about
bittersweet.
What is happening with the DCEU now? Especially with that big tease of an epilogue in the end of that film. Are they really going to continue where they left off? What's going to be canon? What's going to be retcon? It's a mixed bag. You're happy, you're celebrating, but you're also somewhat confused.
Incredibly confused, especially since I feel like this is my conspiracy theory right here, that if they are actually kind of smart, they can take those elements and use them in Flashpoint. I know that the Flash movie is going to be, heavily inspired by Flashpoint, but I know that we also know that usually when it comes to the superhero movies, they usually go do their own thing as well, just to add some spice into the entire universe, so they can easily take some stuff that were hinted in the Justice League movie, and then use it ongoing further into the DCEU. Especially
really
since
hope so.
We know that there's going to be a multiverse in the Flash, and a multiverse was kind of hinted when they were speaking in the Zack Snyder cut. I'm not sure if you noticed that. They just once.
A little
one
bit
sentence.
in the epilogue, yeah.
Not in the epilogue. Actually, in the middle of the movie, they're like various universes, and I'm like, oop,
Yeah.
universes. What could happen here? So this just means that from the beginning, Zack Snyder had what you could
A
say,
clear vision for
clear-
a trilogy of some
not
kind.
even a trilogy. He was basically setting up Justice League 2 and 3, obviously. A movie called The Atom, based on the Dr. Choi,
Yeah.
who takes over. A Batman movie, because also, apparently, initially what he was planning is that for Lois Lane and Clark Kent's son to take over the mantle of Batman later on in the future. Obviously, it sets up a Cyborg movie. It sets up a Flash movie. At least we're getting a Flash movie. As for the rest of those movies, everything is indefinite. And Zack Snyder did say that although he does not want to direct another superhero movie, he does say that everything is uncertain. In another interview, he says he's not sure about the future of any of those stories. So there's a good chance if Warner Brothers just think a little bit. They have, again, the entire
All we can do
DCU
is
will be
all we
fleshed
can do
out.
is really hope.
Yes.
And just to end it off, Aisha, what is your final verdict for this film?
8 out of 10.
Solid 8 out of 10 for me as well. I have a little gripes here and there, but I will say this. Great depth for all the superhero characters. A flushed out storyline. And
Better CGI.
better CGI.
Okay, I have one tiny thing before we go off. It's
Is
like
it the Wonder Woman thing?
the Wonder Woman thing. What's up with the... Okay, so Joss Whedon, why was he so obsessed with the slow motion? In comparison, the same scene, when we see it in the Zack Snyder cut, she was moving in her fast, normal pace, and I loved it. The moment I kept seeing every single fight scene, I'm like, why are
But
they
that
slow
soundtrack,
motion?
they kept using, it was overused every
But
time it was
yeah.
cut to her. I'm like, no. But like,
Yes, yes.
I didn't want to notice it, but then my
Yes.
friend is like, hey, this music is getting a little bit intolerable. I'm like, and when he said that, that's it. I started noticing it every time.
Every time she pops in. There was a part at the very end when everybody, that incredibly, exciting music when everybody's standing behind each other. But the moment she cuts in, the howling started again. So I understand.
Yeah.
But in general, enjoyed the movie. It was pretty good. The soundtrack in general, except for that part, was also really good. Shout out to Zack Snyder for, coming back and continuing this movie. And, the whole changes that he made were amazing, to be honest.
I just want to end it off by saying Zack Snyder really put justice in the Justice League.
You know what? You can get it. You can have it. We're going to be taking a short break, and we'll be coming back with one more story. Ace Ventura is coming back for a third movie. Why? The question is
Alrighty then.
more of Mikhail's impressions of Ace Ventura coming right up next, right here on the Afternoon Karak.
This is Pulse 95.
The same discussion is back again right here on the Afternoon Karak, where we ask, is this sequel necessary?
Short answer is yes.
Almost always no, but I'm not sure. Apparently, Mikhail says yes. I don't know if
Ace
it is.
Ventura is it's one of those movies that personally impacted my childhood. If anything,
Fair enough.
his cartoonish, this is the film that made me love Jim Carrey. His cartoonish personality is kind of, I feel like I got some of that as I grew older. Like that goofy side of me comes from Jim Carrey's performances. And Ace Ventura is just a cult classic. I've watched it every once in a while and I'm like, man, this movie does not get old, honestly.
But
And
that's the
fact,
thing. That's the thing.
What about
Because it's a cult classic. Do we really need a third installment, especially so long after the second movie came out?
The only reason is because I really miss the shenanigans of Jim Carrey.
Fair enough.
It's been so long since he started doing these performances again. I remember at a certain point he personally wanted to stop it because he felt like that's the only thing that he was defined as. And then he went to doing serious movies, a little bit of rom-coms here and there, and I respect that, and I think he's a very talented individual. And when he came back as Dr. What's his name? Professor Robotnik in the Sonic movie. I'm like, and just the way he performs, I'm like, man, I miss that old Jim Carrey. Can we please bring him back? And the fact that they've confirmed, the writers from Sonic the Hedgehog have confirmed that they are working on an Ace Ventura 3. Oh,
I can see
what
it.
a dream.
Maybe if that movie is about him coming out of, retirement, somebody calling him up and being like, hey, we need you back
Just
again.
one more time, Jimmy. That's all we're asking for.
Well, if they're writing something, that means that perhaps he's already in on it. Maybe he's not. Who knows? Because it's like you said,
Yeah.
he has been quite, offline for quite a while. He's been very active politically, maybe, on the political scene, online with his various art and various social commentaries. But he hasn't been really active within the movie scenes, and he hasn't been active as a comedic actor for quite a while as well. So it's like, we just need to wait and see what he feels about it. Again, this is just saying that the script is being written. We cannot really see that it's been officially greenlit fully.
I think fans will demand it so, and it will happen. And I think that call will come where it's like, Jimmy, you're back. And you'll be like, alrighty then. I'm sorry, I just had to do
I'll
it.
give you a clap. You deserve that clap. It's okay. It's okay. Well, what do you guys think? Do we need another Ace Ventura movie? Because I'm the type of person who usually thinks when it comes to sequels, one, look at the movie. Does it really need one? And if it does need one, why did it take them over 20 years? Hold on. It came out the original one came out in 1994, which means the original movie is as old as I am.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, it's been such a long time ago. Why is there a massive gap? And is that gap, does it impact the story? Does it mean that the story has died out and should be left alone?
Possibly.
Or should we bring it back? We just need to wait and see, as long as this project is officially greenlit by the studio. Until then, we wait, and Mikhail continues, or at least shelves his Jim Carrey impressions until we mention this one more time. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about YouTube and innovation, because apparently they are launching a beta version of their own version of TikTok. Let's talk about that coming right up next, right here on the Afternoon Karak.
This is Pulse 95.
It seems like nobody can escape the TikTok popularity,
No.
And if you can't beat them, join them. And that's sort of been the case, even with, like, for example, Instagram. They came out with Reels, their own little take on TikTok. And it seems now YouTube is doing the same thing with their beta version that they're calling YouTube Shorts.
I don't know how to go about this, because we also know that they tried to do their own stories and they weren't really successful, to be honest. Nobody really goes out of their way to click on YouTube stories unless they're incredibly bored and they're just in front of them and like, let me just click on that. But usually you just don't really care about them.
Yeah.
So this could be jumping on the bandwagon kind of thing, but nothing more beyond that. But we see, like, when it comes to Instagram, when they made Reels and when they made, stories as well, they were very smart with it. They kind of incorporated it with their own, I'd say, model, their Instagram model. Same goes with...
It's a more social-based culture.
Exactly.
YouTube is more entertainment-based. You're going there to watch your favorite content creator.
And usually they're long form. They're not short. You don't go on YouTube really expecting to watch anything that is anything less than 2-3 minutes, unless, of course, it's a song or a music video.
Yeah.
But usually you don't go and go like, I'm going to watch a 1-minute video and just leave.
Now, here's the thing. I know a lot of content creators would be incentivized to try out YouTube Shorts when it does hit the platforms after beta. And the only reason they do it is because, just like TikTok, there's money to be made on it. So my concern is, if people are going to make these little shorts on YouTube while also utilizing music, will they have copyright issues?
They're using YouTube music, though.
Oh, okay.
Because
So
YouTube
that's how they're
has it.
integrating it.
Yes.
Okay. That's
So-
kind of smart.
That is smart, and that's why I think they're also, what they're trying to do is that they're trying to promote YouTube music, because not a lot of people are interested in YouTube music.
Just
You
like the YouTube Premium subscription.
that is part of it. Like, oh, you wanna stop watching advertisements? Click on this. You're never gonna see them ever again. Like,
No,
I
I'd
don't
rather
care.
watch your advertisements than pay for this.
Exactly. I live through this. It's not like, Spotify Premium or even Apple Music or even Anghami or all those. Even Deezer apparently is much more popular than YouTube Music, because they're offering offering something new and they have a good, strong fan base. As for YouTube, yes, a lot of us grow up watching music videos and listening to music through YouTube, but we don't really think of it as, oh, I'm gonna go listen to my music fully, completely on YouTube. Usually there's gonna be a mix of other programs and mediums.
Yeah.
So maybe this is their way of pushing YouTube music through it. I mean, even Instagram music is a little bit more successful than YouTube.
I didn't even know Instagram had music.
I mean, when you make videos, you usually can use their directory to to put the music through your videos, whether it's your Reels, your IGTV, or your Instagram posts. Anyway, it's like we just need to wait and see with what YouTube is doing. Are they just copying blindly? Will it actually work, or is it just trying to enrich the experience without actually enriching it?
Now, bear in mind, we're being a bit skeptical now, but maybe in the near future, after beta version, the YouTube Shorts can pick up and be an actual, feature that could really just elevate the whole experience on YouTube. We'll have to just wait and see.
Absolutely. Just need to wait and see as usual. It is always a waiting game over here on the afternoon Karak, but you don't need to wait too long for our upcoming rumor. Armor Wars TV show may feature the MCU's new Black Panther. So this means that we might get a glimpse of the Black Panther before the actual Black Panther movie. Stay tuned for that. We're going to have a discussion coming right up next.
Pulse 95.
I understand the sentiments of a lot of people who often be like, this is too popular, but that's not my type. Or because it's so popular, people will be discouraged from watching.
Like, I don't do mainstream stuff.
I don't do mainstream stuff. Sometimes the fandom themselves are quite toxic or very annoying that it pushes you away.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I feel like maybe Hind, one of our favorite, listeners, shout out to Hind, she might be, have similar sentiments as I do, because she says, hi guys, so I'm honestly not a DC fan at all. Understandable. Blame Warner Brothers for that. And I didn't like the theatrical cut, but you guys got me so psyched and interested to see the Snyder cut. And I'm definitely going to see it now. And you definitely must, because even though I'm not a big fan of Game of Thrones, I just felt like eventually the fans got on my nerves. And I'm like, you know what? I'm giving up on this entire series. But the prequels that they keep on announcing, those have piqued my interest, especially since HBO is going to add even more of them. They've actually announced 3 more prequels.
This is a pretty big deal because for a while, HBO has been in the background working on pitching a couple of pilot episodes for certain spin-offs. The one that only got greenlit so far is the House of Dragon, which will come out next year. But these 3 shows, what are they called? Well, the first one is called The Nine Voyages. It's going to focus on the Sea Snake and who is the Lord of the Tides and the House of Valerian. It's the Iron Isles, as you could say. That's sort of where the focus. And the second project is called The 10,000 Ships. Revolves around the warrior queen princess Nymeria, a revered ancestor of the House of Martell in the Kingdom of Dorne. And the third project is set in the notorious King's Landing slum of Flea Bottom. Really, really interesting because this is sort of like a focus on specific territories. Game of Thrones has always been revered for its ability to really tackle complex politics between numerous houses. But we don't ever get too much time to spend in the culture and the traditions and the people and of these houses, just a little bit here and there, because it's always moving from one point of view to another. But to have a point of view completely focused in a specific characters and in a specific place, I think that's very refreshing, and hopefully hopefully these projects do get greenlit as well. But we'll have to see. The way they're doing it, it's just like they're pitching all of these projects, and if HBO is going to do it or not, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yes, because those are all working titles, which means they are somewhat greenlit, but not fully greenlit, because obviously they would have a title by now if they did, and we would have some news of the cast and probably who's the director, producer, and writers, because again, we have no news yet, just news that this has been greenlit, which means that we have around maybe 6 prequels, around 6 or 7 already.
Yeah.
That have been the only one that's been officially announced is one of them, or perhaps 2. The rest are all just thrown in there. They're hyping the fans up, but hopefully they do not disappoint any fans by canceling any of them after putting their expectations up so high. We're going to be taking one last break. Coming up next is Aisha and Mikhail Suggest, so stay tuned for that and so much more only here on the Afternoon Karak.
It's almost 5 p.m.
That was Afternoon Karak.
For dessert,
Aisha and Mikhail suggest.
Mikhail and I spoke about the very much anticipated Snyder cut of the Justice League earlier in the hour. It was a very long review and it was full with spoilers, so if you guys have not watched it, you have the chance to watch it right after our show and then come back and listen to our podcast that will be uploaded later on wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search up the Afternoon Karak on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Anghami, on SoundCloud, again wherever you listen to podcasts. But if you want to see our facial expressions as we very animatedly express our happiness with this cut of this movie, you can also check out our YouTube channel because we do stream throughout all our shows live on YouTube on our channel Pulse 95 Radio. So make sure you subscribe, like, comment. We'd love to read your comments later on. Maybe we can give you a shout out as well. Now we move on to our last segment. That is Aisha and Mikhail Suggest, and we have a suggestion from Mikhail.
All right, so my suggestion is pretty quick, and it has to do with the fact that we as humans have impulses, and it could usually affect us when we go out shopping for anything, luxury products, certain goods. So my suggestion, please avoid spending any kind of money on first copies. I know there's a whole market for it, but honestly, it's not that good. And the reason I come up with a suggestion because the other day my sister, she came back from China market and she got herself a Louis Vuitton first copy. And I'm like, you don't do that.
First of all, ethically speaking, that is not correct. You guys should not. You try your best not to do it.
Exactly.
I understand that a lot of you, everybody wants to have the same thing that everybody is having.
Yeah.
What is in trend, what is in fashion.
But you undermine the quality, the purpose of that brand in the first place. And my suggestion, if you're just avoid first copies, but if you're gonna go out of your way and you're thinking you're buying yourself the original stuff, please look up for any certain signs or things that would spot out what a first copy looks like and what an original looks like.
Especially when you're buying things online. Be careful.
Or just take a shopping expert like Aisha with you. She'll tell you what to do.
I do. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert, but always try to go to places where are actually proper places that sell those goods and items, because even when it comes to things that are not luxury items, when it comes to perfumes, maybe when it comes to even board games, you might get the wrong one,
especially when you're shopping online on the Bizzle or something like that.
And with that, we end our hour right here on the Afternoon Karak, unfortunately, but the fun and all the good times continue with Yellow Home. Big Hassan and Schofield take over from 5 p.m. all the way till 8 p.m. only here on Pulse 95.
if you liked this episode of Afternoon Karak, drop a like and subscribe.
Pulse 95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.